We please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So, we have any public comment tonight?
I have received none.
All right. Well, we'll check in again at the end and see if anybody has anything to add when we get to the end of the meeting, but before we adjourn. I think I'd like to start tonight by having Rory take us through Monday's senior staff meeting. Was anyone able to join you, Rory? I have a call that normally runs until 10 and they just kept going. So
Yeah, I'm stuck at work. I could not attend.
Yeah, I did it solo, which was fine. You know, I basically, I kind of reiterated what I had presented them before, just in that, you know, they should have gone through the 10-year plan, and throughout this year, we will be, you know, working with them to draw things from the 10-year plan to put into a 1-year plan. That, you know, at some point we will have members of the strategic planning committee, and I told them we may have to set up a separate meeting at a time that's more agreeable for you guys. And, you know, in that we'll go over strategic planning generally, as well as kind of agile and how we're looking to apply them. And then, you know, reiterated to them that anything that was not completed in 2020 will be expected to be completed in 2021. And I tried to push the angle that it's helpful to them, both when they're, you know, going before the Board of Finance. We just did our annual budget summit the first week of January. So, you know, several of them were saying like, oh, well, I've accomplished a lot in the past several years. And I said, well, this is how you demonstrate that. You know, you'll be able to point to these dashboards that will show your progress, so they don't have to take your word for it, you know?
Right.
And likewise.
Was there any apprehension, Rory? Was there any concern?
None that was voiced anyway.
Okay.
You know, I said, you guys you're already doing this. We're just formalizing the process. You know, you guys all have your mental inventories, but we just want them down on paper. So.
Yep.
Who was considered senior staff?
So it is Mike Wilson, the IT director, facilities director, operations director, finance director, the land use director, community services director, police chief, emergency management director.
Okay, so
Might be
all of the necessary departments, so to speak.
Yeah, basically just not, you know, the tax collector, the assessor, those kind of smaller departments within town hall are not included. But the larger departments that typically have larger budgets and that kind of thing.
Were there any questions that were asked? Anything that you know, we could take away as something perhaps we need to explain in more detail, we need to provide support on, you know, sort of what was the vibe in the room? What was the...
Well, I mean, it was pretty quiet and there wasn't a lot of questions or comments as I spoke. I tried to tie it to things that, people in the meeting had just said at the budget summit. So to make it a little more concrete and less abstract.
Mhm.
So either I did a great job and explained everyone's questions, or maybe they just, they're not getting it, or they, I don't know what it is, but we'll find out.
I'm going to chalk it up to Rory doing a great job.
Why, thank you, Bob.
I think so. That's my take.
One thing I'll say, Jim Baldwin brought up, the real estate market in Seymour is exploding right now, as I'm sure you guys know. And with it, some of the few remaining large parcels in town that have not been developed are coming up for sale. There was a 40-acre plot on Skokorat near the Beacon Falls border that's
Mhm.
for sale for like $695 or something crazy. So it's priced to move, and there's already an approved road plan from
Is that Fanato's or
it's not Fanato's. There's
next door? Yeah.
but Fanato's on Bissell just sold. So anyway, the point he was making was that some of these larger parcels are coming available, and with the market being what it is, like it might actually be profitable again for builders to start doing subdivisions. And with that, obviously, is the increased strain on infrastructure and services that's going to create. So, he brought it up as a, if you guys are talking about long-term planning, you need to see that this is coming down the pike. So,
Well, that could be easily added to a strat plan, right? I mean, as an action or from a preparation standpoint, because you can add that at any time. So if there's something that has to come out of that, you can easily add that.
well, absolutely. And that was, how I responded was just that, good heads up, number one. Number two, like we kind of have to wait and see what happens. If somebody purchases it to keep it open space, well, then we don't really have to worry about it, obviously. But if it's, I forget, it's R40, so it's, single family, 1 acre plots. So we would have some lead time on it, but it's more, there are currently somewhere around 100 units pending in Seymour that have already been approved. They just have to be built. And so if this parcel, they were talking about another one off Great Hill. If some of these do come available, we may be talking like, maybe another 100 units, depending. But that's all, it's all hypothetical, and it's all fairly down the road. But I was just saying, that's a great idea, and kind of stress the need for everybody to, even if you don't think it's directly relevant to anyone else who is at this meeting, it's important that everybody here knows what everybody else is doing, because there may be kind of tangential impacts. That's why we have everybody sit at a table. So
Does it make sense at this juncture to put somebody on it to say, okay, wherever it makes sense, to sort of have it as part of their planning process to keep track of that, and and to communicate that?
yes, Jim Baldwin came on as our building official.
Mhm.
Kurt, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, put him in charge of all of our land use boards had historically just kind of operated completely independently, and we didn't keep close tabs on them really, but we kind of relied on the board chairs to communicate, which is not something that we should rely on. So Jim oversees that. That's part of his job description now, is overseeing planning, zoning, and wetlands and stuff. So it is part of his job description.
Right, but can we put a goal to that? I mean, sort of, we have this thing that's come up, and can we say, even something as simple as deliver a report?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, another thing that we've talked about is, as a broader goal of ours, is to generate more useful data and information, right?
Mhm.
So, a year-end summary of all the development, how many new units of housing do we have? Absolutely would be useful.
Yeah, because one of the, and you guys, when you saw my comments on the EDC goalkeeping, is I get twitchy when I see, keep an eye on, monitor, consider.
Yeah.
Think about, because that's just nothing.
Well, even that type of data that you're talking about would be, again, be important to the EDC from
Rating agency,
right? Promotion. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that was a thing that we've been talking about as we look at EDC again, is like, we should have like a packet of information that we can hand out related to economic development specifically, about, what's available, what's being done, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, our default for a long time was kind of monitor, ensure, all these
Mhm.
vague action verbs that, I think maybe our default should be like generate a report. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and again, not to create that, not trying to create it, but even that what we do there has to be dynamic, because that's ever changing, right? So it has to be a process where, as you have transactions in the town, it automatically gets reflected into the report. So that's the tough part about that all, putting that all together. I mean, we need to
For
do that.
sure.
Those are the words we have, but you have to think about it throughout the whole process of who's got to touch that, and from a process standpoint, making it repeatable
But even
across.
if the baby step is it's quarterly or
Right.
biannually, and we
Well,
start there, that's leaps and bounds above what we've got today.
and I think, something that's on our list is to kind of revamp the quarterly reporting process, because it was not generating useful data. I think I've talked about that before.
Right.
The difficult part is kind of going department to department and identifying what data is useful. That's kind of one of the stumbling blocks. Some are obviously easier than others. Some lend themselves to data. Tax collection is pretty easy, but the assessor, for example, is a little harder. What actually matters for the town clerk, data-wise? So something we're keeping in the back of our mind, but
I think it's also it's a mindset changer. So I think even if the data point that you pick isn't the data point that you're going to be looking for 5 years from now, I wonder if it makes sense to get them in the habit of dealing in things that are measurable.
we had that
Mhm.
in the old process. Like, again, some of them where we could come up with them, we did, and some are not very useful. Some were really, the assessor I keep going back to, that's really tough. I don't, getting data out of that, obviously, like grand list changes is one thing that's good to keep track of. Permits processed, that kind of thing, audits conducted.
Great. Well, like something like Randless changes, from a town perspective, it's almost, it's imperative that it's real time, right? I mean, because it's going to impact immediately once you have a big tax base change, and you have to think about the next year's budget and all those things, right?
Yeah.
So that we do have to figure out a way, and it's not for this group to do that, but as part of the strat plan, we do have to figure out a way to make that very dynamic and, fast acting. You need that information relatively quickly.
For sure. So I'll revisit the question Rory, is what can we do to support your endeavors and the endeavors of senior staff? Is there anything that we can, is it a matter of, sitting down with one group, trying to schedule one meeting? Something that we can do that is tangible and beneficial?
I mean, I think what, is that me?
You're here, you're fine.
Oh, I thought somebody else was talking. I think what we had talked about in terms of delivering a crash course to everybody would be great. And I mean, we have the presentations that you created, Kathy, that I can just try to deliver to everybody.
Do they need to hear it from someone else or no? Does it help? I mean, if they hear it, from a different group or how other organizations run, I mean, you can think about it that way. How it's being used effectively somewhere. I mean, just so they're thinking about it. Again, when you're in the middle of it, it can be threatening, right? And you can't see the forest through the trees. So if you have somebody who's been through it and tells you the ins and outs, experiences, what to look out for, that might help.
I mean, I certainly don't think it would hurt. I also kind of think that because it's something kind of new to people, that no matter what, there's going to be a learning curve, and
Change me.
absolutely, it's going to take them some time to get accustomed to it. But it's more that I don't want to screw up the timeline. I was unprepared to go into and deliver presentations for January. I don't know if you guys think it's better to wait till February, or I can schedule a meeting before then so that we stay on the timeline that we had discussed.
For me, if we can stay on timeline, I think that's always a better idea, if at all possible, because timelines are slippery. So I think if we can, and we can just carve out a hard day. I mean, I honestly forgot about senior staff, and my week previous had been a bit of a kerfluffle. So, if we can carve out, and I can put a hard date on the calendar, then I can just schedule around, work around it. Again, if we can, I would like to try to, this doesn't feel to me like something it's worth slipping a timeline for. There'll be plenty of things that are going to mess up timelines. So for me, if we can stay on track, I'd prefer that. So when something really big comes up that messes us up,
Yeah.
When's the next opportunity to talk to them, Rory?
I'm sorry, what was that?
When's the next opportunity to be able to talk to that group?
The senior staff meets monthly. So either, wait till, I think it's usually the second Monday, or I can schedule, a separate meeting. They all know this is coming. The only ones that I wouldn't want to, the Board of Ed, like, the facilities director, the IT director, are shared positions, and I would bring them on, but maybe not the superintendent, but everybody else at the senior staff meeting. If we set a meeting and tell them they have to come, they have to come.
So maybe the next step is to figure out, look at the calendar over the next couple weeks and see what fits, and maybe come back to the group. And then we can, give us maybe two or three options, and then we can look at schedule and see, what we can do. And then if we can't make it work, then, we flip it to February.
Okay, I could do that.
Does that make sense? Okay. Again, for me, it's, if I put something hard on, I can just schedule, work elsewhere. So
Okay.
I have some standing client meetings, but if as long as it doesn't interfere with those, then I have some flexibility.
Yeah, if it's a boss's meeting or a customer, that's the only thing that keeps me out. If it's in my team, I can move that,
Right.
Worst case scenario, we can just start the process of, if nobody can make it, rather than push the timeline, I'll just do the meeting.
Okay.
So, but I'll see if I'll put some times together and send them out, and if people can make it, great. Otherwise, I'll take a look back at the presentations Kathy prepared and see if I think they need any modification for this. Or if you guys think there's any additional detail needed in terms of, we kind of gave the selectmen a broad overview, and we'd be getting a little more into process. So.
And in my mind, what I'd like to do, Rory, and please, everyone else in the group, if you disagree, say, I would prefer to see you lead it, Rory, because you're the person that's going to be on ground, with them day in, day out.
Mhm.
And I would prefer to add color, add examples, same for, for Bob, but to make you as the subject matter expert. We're just to support you. Yeah, I wrote the deck, but who cares? It's your deck now.
I already started.
I know you. And I'm glad for it. But I think putting you in that position of authority will be more effective in the long run. And we're support, and I think that's our role.
color and film. Yeah, so we to make sense of some of the stuff as you're explaining it from an organizational standpoint, where we've used it before and how we can help them understand it. That would help.
Yeah, and we can answer, that. Well, what do I do if? And Bob go, oh yeah, well when we see this, we do this. But at the end of the day, Rory, you're the point of contact. Again, we're just color commentary.
Yeah, and really, I mean, it's going to be, I think, going forward, I'll try to coach them through things, and they'll, submit something, and this group is going to review it anyway, right? So it kind of just mirrors that structure.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think by having a presence, at that meeting, it shows the origin story of where this is coming out of. We're not just making this crap up. It's, 5 different companies and 2 different industries, but yet we have the, and Stefan too, we all have this language.
Right.
So there's no reason that the common language can't be spoken at town hall as well. We can prove that, whether it's insurance technology or, whatever, we're all speaking the same language and doing the exact same thing. And that's why this works.
Yep.
Okay.
So cool. Yeah, but let us know, and then, I'll put makeup on that day. It'll be great.
Oh, yeah, I'll put something together, send out a tentative schedule.
Okay. Perfect.
All right.
So then let's move on to EDC. I guess.
I added to the agenda.
You did, you sneaky little monkey.
Sorry, I meant to point it out to you too. I had sent an email out after a meeting in December with the fire department.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had a couple other meetings with the fire department, and so they keep asking, and they were not sure if they were supposed to come to this meeting, and I said, well, you know, believe it or not, we still haven't met. The strategic planning committee hasn't met since that first time it came up, so let me meet with them first, and I'll get back to you. But what we had discussed with them was setting up a special three-way meeting with the commission, the chiefs, and us.
Do we have preferred dates?
Actually, I think I took a picture of the meeting calendar. Let me consult it. There are several nights, or the constraints are obviously everybody's schedule, but also how many meetings we have scheduled, because we can only run 2 concurrently. And if I have to be at the other one, you guys, you know, can do it without me if you want.
Well, I have Zoom Pro, so I can, if you need me to, I can host.
Okay.
You know, I can host the meeting, so.
Well, it has to, the real pain is that because of the executive order, you know, they have to be recorded and then uploaded. So
Got you.
we can figure that out if it comes to it. But anyway, I can send out some tentative dates for that as well.
Okay.
And it would, you know, very likely kind of be the same as what we're going to do for the senior staff, right?
Mhm.
Kind of like
Yeah.
crash course, and I sent them out from my class. Actually, I had gotten a copy of Torrington Fire Department's strategic plan, and their volunteer department. So I gave them that to take a look at and kind of chew over.
When we first met with them many years ago, but I mean, they had some at least have an equipment plan, right? I mean, they didn't really have a strategic plan. It was just really more of an equipment replacement plan.
Do they have like a 3-year, I'm calling it was like a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan? They did have a plan because we were there. I was there with
But
you.
it's more just for equipment, I think.
It was, you know, 99% equipment based, which is important in terms of like capital planning. But obviously, there's also, well, so first off, if you remember, we created a Gmail account way back, and I was going through the Google Drive on that, trying to find if I had a copy of that, but I could not for the life of me find it.
The fire department one?
Yeah.
I'll take a look through my pile and see if I can find it.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. But anyway, they've told me that they do have still kind of like a capital plan, but not so much a strategic plan. And that the Torrington one that I had sent them was very good for that. And I hope that they have looked at it, because it goes into kind of recruitment and retention.
I was just gonna say, hopefully it covered all those top other.
Yeah.
Right. That was some of the stuff we put in our early report, was based on the discussion with them, and, you know, yeah, we kind of filled in the rest around their equipment plan and based on our discussions with them. And that's where that whole, a lot of work with that retention plan and the tax abatements and, yeah, recruitment.
Yeah, benchmarking. We talked about benchmarking. Yeah. I think it might make sense for us at this point to say, okay, well, what structure do we want for these meetings? I feel like we're going to have, hopefully, we're going to see an uptick in various boards, committees, commissions, et cetera, wanting this sort of support. And maybe we think about it as, okay, it's going to be a 2-meeting series. The first meeting is the dog and pony, where we tell them, hey, this is what we want you to do. And then we plan to, the same group that does the dog and pony plans to meet with them X number of days, weeks, whatever later, and says, okay, here's what you've learned. Now you're in the in-between time, you've put together your plan based on what you heard. We fine tune the plan with them, and then we move on.
Yeah, having like a, that's why, you know, I'll have to make it a priority, but developing like a go-to slide deck so that it is just kind of the same thing over and over again.
You know, and base it off of the original decks that were produced, you know, where it's, here's the philosophy. It's not that complicated. I mean, once you kind of break it down and understand it, you know, in terms of what they're hoping to achieve, I don't think it's all that crazy. It's just learning a different vocabulary.
Well, I point out that it took us a couple of years to kind of nail it down. No?
Yeah.
No, to come around to this is the way we were going to do it.
Yeah, and also if you think about even the fire, they had an equipment plan. So right away they went to some a necessity based, I'm going to put together this list of things that I want, and I'm going to put that in a strat plan. Well, that's a component of it, and that's always the easiest thing to come up with. It's all those other things to make it longer term and sustaining that are the more critical pieces to a strat plan. Because I would argue equipment plan should be one line that says develop a budget for an yearly equipment plan for the town, and that's the action. You know, and then there's other things that versus having each one of those pieces as items in the strat plan. Now there might be some critical ones that are different because they require a larger budget or, you know, more thought process around it. They may need demographic growth that changes the trucks that you need, whatever it is. Yeah. Right. So those would be more in the strat plan versus having all the equipment as line items in the strat plan saying we need a truck, we need a this.
Another truck.
That's not a strat plan.
Well,
Right, that's a wish list.
Well, but that other truck, you know, starts have, you know, the how many more units are coming up and how many more miles of road are being developed, and
but those are the pieces, right? To have a yearly.
Those are the pieces. We're going to be needing another truck.
Well,
we
because
might want
that
a
drives
substation.
that drives the need for the truck. So you want the reporting that drives the need for the report. That's actually more important than just saying I need a truck. You know?
Yeah.
So,
It's using data to demonstrate.
That goes to public works too. And, you know, how many more catch basins, how many more miles of road.
Exactly.
It's almost like I don't remember where in my writing career it came up with, but it's the concept of show, don't tell. And because that's really what you're trying to get at is you want to show somebody why, whatever your point of view is, why your point of view is correct. You know, so rather than just saying, I need a truck because I need a truck, that's telling them. Showing them is, here's the 37,000 reasons why we need to increase our fleet.
Yeah.
So, and it's really the concept of show, don't tell.
And it drives the need. So they drive the need.
Well, and the other part, again, because it kind of coincided with the budget summit, you know, I said, they're like, oh yeah, we have one. And Bill Sawicki said, well, I've never seen it. You know what I mean? And so I kind of stressed the need to everybody, like, I know you all know what you have and what you need. The problem is, you know, we can't just show that to somebody unless you put it down on paper. And that is why what we're asking of you is to create documents that you keep up to date and that we can put in a central repository so that we can just, you know, we do an exercise at this thing where Kirk called it the Hunger Games, and everybody just throws out capital requests.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
like for this upcoming fiscal year, we have 1.2 million in capital requests and only $300,000 in funding. And the idea is everybody needs to know what everybody is requesting so that you understand when you don't get funded, why that happens. And it's the same idea. Like we should just be able to, I mean, granted, that's the Board of Selectmen's prerogative, not the Board of Finance, but the Board of Finance should see that document too.
And if they've done a really good job of maintaining those documents over time, now the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen can look in and go, oh, look, we've got this coming down the pike. We need to start planning for it instead of it being a big surprise. Surprise, I need $1 million. Well,
Yeah, it solidifies. Yeah, it solidifies the need. Gives you justification. It gives you all the things you need.
mhm. Yeah.
But you know, I was just thinking, when we get to the point, I just threw it on my to-do list, but going back to the quarterly reporting idea and this idea of kind of changing some of the goals to report generating. That we have a lot of items in the plan that are kind of like, you got to keep an eye on this, because if you don't, it's going to sneak up on you, and then we're going to have to spend a bunch of money unexpectedly, and that's what we're trying to avoid with this document, right? So I'm trying to think of an example, but
Well, I think the example you used earlier with the real estate might be what you're fishing for.
well, and you know, annually evaluate staffing levels for the HR director, and you know, for public works, like when's the last time we updated our total road inventory that you operate off of? Like, do you know how many miles of road we have? Are the plow routes evenly distributed? Because that, you know, it's all based on that. So kind of implementing kind of like spelling out in each section of the plan an annual report or a quarterly report, whatever it is, and the criteria that are to be included in there, to kind of meet some of these things that there is no built-in mechanism for people to monitor them, and they probably do, but maybe just the act of like putting it down on paper every year will make them acutely aware of it.
Like a state of the union almost, or a state of the brand, or a year, like an annual summary. Like kind of, this is you've been worrying about for this year. Is that what you're?
But on a departmental level. So I
Right. No, absolutely. That's, yeah. I mean, each individual stakeholder.
That's what the dashboard is from the strat plan is meant to do, because it can be done at the departmental level. That would be the goal of a dashboard.
I guess I'm having trouble articulating it. Like, so okay. So, for example, community services in the library, any benchmarking goal that we have, As far as I know, they're not explicit in terms of like, you're putting this down on paper, you're developing a report. I don't know. I'll review it and see if I can put my thoughts together.
Okay. I think anywhere we see the term monitor, consider, ensure, any of those fluffy verbs, we should almost by rote change it to report.
Well,
Or-
generate a report that does this.
Right.
Right. So it becomes more fixed, or produced data that explains this. I don't know. I'm just kind of coming up with some, so it's more action based. That's all.
Right. Yeah, literally just and that's sort of what I did with the EDC thing, was just anywhere it was abstract, I literally just ripped the word out and replaced it with report or conduct a study, something that at the end of a period of time I could hand to Bob and say, here, look at this. And I think that's the point we need to,
No
drive.
deliverable,
Yeah. Because I can consider something for the rest of time and never do anything with it. So, and I'm never accountable because I'm always considering it. I'm always thinking about it. I'm always ensuring it.
Did you consider it? Yeah, I did. It wasn't for me.
Considered it.
So,
All right,
all
so
right, well,
I'll put together some dates for the fire meeting as well.
okay.
I owe you guys an email and I'll include all of this.
And if
Right.
you have an example, Rory, that you can come up with at some point, where we can help think through it, you can float it to us,
Okay.
Yep. All right. So I think that segues us nicely to the EDC. How did that go? Who was there? I apologize again for not being able to join. So can somebody fill the group in on what happened at that meeting?
Sure. Yeah, it went well.
Hey, Stefan.
Hello. Sorry I was late. It was good. We basically gave them your feedback. We reiterated that we wanted all the goals to be actionable and how we wanted them to read. They said that they could handle going back and changing the wording to make it work for us. They said that they would have that done, I think, by now. I'm not sure if you received anything yet, Rory, but
I know my wife was working on something. I don't know if she was done, but I do know she was working on something.
but otherwise, I thought it went well. It was pretty simple.
Okay. Was there any pushback, questions? What was the vibe in the room, sort of thing?
The only questions that they had, as far as I could remember, and people could keep me honest here, they sort of wanted to be clear that they don't have power to enact a lot of these things because they're just a volunteer board, and we don't have an EDC director at the moment. So they just sort of, I don't know, maybe there was some confusion about what their role in enacting the plan was. But I think we tried to kind of tell them that we just wanted their feedback on what they think should be in the plan.
Right.
And they also mentioned they had a couple members that have done that plans before. It seems like they felt that they knew how to do this, which is good because they felt like they could just take it on and own it, and they understood that, it needed action words. So I think they'll get there.
Yeah, they seem to indicate they were familiar with what we were asking them to do, so, and had experience at doing it,
Cool.
even though that's not what they gave us.
Well, they gave us was based on our old format, so.
Well, and they also kind of said I think they had to go revisit some of the things that were on there for a long period of time too. I think that kind of came out of some of the discussions as well. Because they kind of mentioned a couple things that they had to go revisit, so.
It seemed like they
So they-
let Sadie do most of the work on it the first time around, and now they're gonna take their own crack at it.
And I guess, that document was actually dated 12 of 2019. So whether they had not touched it at all or whether they had changed it and didn't change the date, but if this was from 12 of 2019, then it was pretty stagnant, yes. So,
All right, well, either way, they have the tools now and the clear direction. So we'll be excited to see what they come up with. Do we want to put a reminder date on the calendar so we can start harassing them, to keep them honest?
I mean, if they don't thing by our meeting next month, we should check in with them because they'll have met already for February.
right.
So can we put it, can we pin it on the calendar to follow up with them before our next meeting? So that, whenever if they meet the first Wednesday and we meet the second Wednesday, can we hit them on that first Thursday? Because I'd love to talk about it on our meeting and not wait till March to find out they didn't, that they didn't do something.
I'll also make a subliminal comment.
Yeah, I would say
Red light,
let
Bob.
them know, check it a day or two before their meeting and say, how you guys are a week before and how are you guys doing with that? And yeah, don't wait until after the meeting. It's how did you do with that? How are you working?
I think they'll be, I know they're working on it, so I think we'll get something.
Okay. And also under, with if they have a question or they need something clarified, I know they have that, they have a resource under your roof, Bob, but, we just sort of put it out there that if you need anything.
Just leave the file out on the desk.
Excellent. All right, so that's good stuff. Do we have any other things we need to bring up to the group?
Well, I guess just the question, we kind of leveled a lot of this stuff on Rory in terms of the senior staff and, a lot of commitment and not sure where, he's our volunteer / paid person and not sure where all that falls within his daily or weekly time allotment. And, glad that Anne Marie is here so that she can, kind of hear what we've trying to task him with and the overall good of the town. And is it, I don't think it's overwhelming. But, again, it's.
If I thought it was too much, I would tell you.
Okay.
Or he'd let me know.
That's right, you've been,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think if this is done right, I think it's gonna, I want to believe it's gonna make Rory's job a lot easier as well. The longer term, to be fair, again, I can only go by experience. When the way I used to do it to the way I do it now, it made my job a ton easier at the management level. There's other things I gotta deal with, but the plan, man, it made it so much simpler.
In the short term, it will be more work. In the long term, hopefully less, but that's how all things that result in less work in the long term take a lot of work up front. So
Agreed.
yeah, and once people get in the habit, you'll start to like having, 15-minute meetings, 5-minute meetings,
no meeting.
More
No
clarity, even more clarity, just to define clarity,
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. All right, Anne Marie, did you have anything you wanted to enlighten us on? Questions, comments, major mail adjustments?
No, I think this board is doing a great job. And, I know the fire department, as I told Stefan the other day, I know the fire department, the chiefs and the commissioners are looking forward to working with the strategic planning committee. And I just can't wait to see how that goes. You know, it was a vision that was seen long ago. Like you said, remember, all the hard work is done up front and it takes a long time. But once this gets going, then it just works itself out. It takes 30 days to make a habit and just keep it going. And like you said, Kath, 15-minute meeting is great compared to, I don't know, the 3-hour one I had today.
No, you can do so much more. You know, the company I'm working for now, we're rolling out what will become a national initiative.
Mhm.
And our central team is 3.
Yeah.
There are
It
3 of us
just-
that are rolling out it's a massive national initiative. We meet every morning for like 15 minutes. Yeah.
It works in business, and a town is a business, really.
Mhm.
So it just makes everybody more productive.
Yep. That's
So I
it.
think it's great. Continue the great work.
All right.
I
And with
like
that-
sitting on here and listening to all you, the way you guys are doing it. It's great because I've been sitting in all meetings, you know, all the departments and all the committees and their meetings just to hear what's going on. And it's great to hear, you know, what they've done with the strategic planning and how they're moving forward. So your committee is it's a positive note for everybody. It's having a positive effect with everybody, which is great.
Cool. Well, we're hopeful to keep the ball rolling and just step back and watch it roll.
Yeah.
That's our long-term goal.
Make sure.
All right, then. So we have no public comment. Do we have any public comment? Public? Hearing none, I would like a motion to adjourn at 7:59.
Motion to
moved.
adjourn.
Second,
All right, first by Bob, second by Don. Motion to we adjourn at 7:59, less than an hour, people.
Nice.
All right, guys,
All right.
stay well. Rory will look forward to your emails and take good care, everybody.
Yeah.
I
Bye, guys.
Thank
Later soon.
Bye.
Good night.